Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. My name is Mark Anthony Peter, and I am unfortunately joined by my co-host Sean Michael Small. Good morning, Sean.
But Mark, what do you mean? What do you mean, Mark? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? I was just trying to, point out, before the show started, that WESN takes art and culture seriously. We didn't just start today. This has been an ongoing passion of the station. There for the culture. That's right.
And this is episode 3 of Breakthrough. Thank you for joining us, Trinidad and Tobago. We have a really interesting topic of discussion, and we have with us, joining us in studio, our guest, Mr. Dion Carrington. Good morning.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Sean.
Morning,
nice
morning.
to be here.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
All right, so just to briefly introduce Dion just a little bit, he's very much into the poetic arts, author. He has a book out, and it's phenomenal. I started reading it.
Hey,
I started reading it, finally. But no, it's great.
It's a paper book? You're reading a paper book?
Yeah, first of all.
I just want to point out, on the previous show that we've had, far too many of the people on that show disappointed me by preferring things like movie and audio visuals and right?
Yeah.
And I think you were one of them.
No, well,
different time. People get into things on their own time. You can't force them.
You're talking like if you are 50 from a long gone forgotten age,
younger than me.
Exactly, that's what happened. The author is younger than some of our guests that gave us that response, right?
Hey,
I'm just saying.
People have said that I surpassed my age, in terms of my thoughts and whatnot. So I just
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, then you'll be perfect for this discussion.
I think so.
All right, cool. So we're getting into, I hope you're brushed up on your philosophy a little bit. So we're getting into it a little bit. So
Yeah, we could do some philosophy too.
Right. So the topic of discussion, basically, there's the question of, does art imitate life or does life imitate art? So just to give some context, so the great philosophers, Plato, he would have argued that art should tell the truth no matter what. It should not be, because he already believed that everything that exists is already a form of a pure form. Mm-hmm. So essentially, so as Mark, there is a true form of Mark, but then there's the presenting form that's somewhat of a shadow of the true form. And then he said art is basically a copy of a copy. Mm-hmm. So it should always try to, it should always try to be as accurate as possible. This was always in the context of poetry and theater, right? Because poets don't really study. He was of the belief poets don't really study truth, but rather they try to convince people of what their interpretation of truth is. And then Aristotle, his student, was a little bit, on the fence about that. And art it's an attempt at generalization. It can't be all true and all accurate all the time. And then years later, Oscar Wilde came in and he was like, no, life is boring. All of these things happen at the same time. We strive to be what we see in art. So I ask you, gentlemen, does art imitate life or does life imitate art?
I don't know if you want to go first.
I personally believe that both exist.
Okay.
I feel like in today's world, we see life imitating art more because we have a tendency, we're creating so much, even outside of artistic spaces. Just like you think about the advancements of technology and whatnot, like the rate at which that we create things, you're going to see those things replicated in life afterwards. It's like, okay, so we have all these films that explore all this science fiction and whatnot, and then we get phones that are able to do things that were happening in 90s film and media, you know what I mean? So just that whole understanding of, because art is based off of imagination and not necessarily reality or like creating real things, it can come faster than the introduction of real products into life, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So now we definitely have that dilemma, but I think that before, where life was definitely a lot slower than it is now, it's much more likely to have art be influenced by the art that's being created.
Okay. I mean, so one of the fields of art now are conceptual artists that literally they're just like, what is the future, and try to see what it could possibly look like. And it's not all hokey pokey, because ironically, as you said with science fiction, there were things on Star Trek The Next Generation, like the concept of playing music from a computer. that was not a thing.
Yeah, it didn't exist.
But they put it in the show, right? And then they had touchscreen tablets in the show, and then these things literally became true. The communicators from the first Star Trek is almost kind of like cell phones now, right? But with that said, though, I do wonder. I mean, I think to some extent contemporary art does imitate life, and perhaps I believe, at least historically, it could have been to try to immortalize lessons learned, and it goes back to folk art, right? These are our values. These are hard-won things, and back when we didn't have paper, you know, back when we didn't have computers especially, because paper will eventually, who knows how much we've lost to just time from paper degrading. This is how we record our histories in some cases. But now in modern art, as you pointed out, I think it is trying to maybe show us what's on the horizon. Science fiction especially looks at the extremes, right? There's a lot of ethics in science fiction stories, right? And it's extreme examples that then allow us to go through the mental exercises. It's not going to actually be that extreme, we hope. We hope. But I do think, though, that we are also seeing where life imitates art. I do wonder if there is this phenomenon where more and more we're forgetting a movie is a movie, a TV show is a TV show. Things are not going to work quite like that. CSI is not how actual criminal investigations go. You know, fight scenes in a movie.
Grey's Anatomy is not all
right. Grey's Anatomy is not like how all medicine goes. Like a 5'9" guy, 180 pounds is not going to have a good chance of beating a 260 guy, 6'4" guy. A 5'4" woman is not going to necessarily beat a 300-pound guy in a fight. This is why actual professional fighting has weight classes. But we look at the movies and we kind of get fooled. Oh, you know, this is what a gun is. This is how explosions happen.
But it looks so real.
Like, it looks so real, but we don't understand. It doesn't quite work that way. You know what I mean? Like when we see a guy pick up a grenade and throw it back, it's like, no, in real life, if you did that, you might lose your hand. In real life, if you try to go into a fight, you're probably going to get beat, especially if they weigh 100 more pounds than you.
Definitely.
You know, so I don't know to what extent media has kind of like made us forget what reality even is sometimes.
Well, I mean, there's that whole thing on reality TV. But to that point that you made, do you think, because this was one of Plato's grievances, he's like, people are not going to study, he was concerned people are not going to study the truth themselves. And they're going to rely too heavily on the art to be persuaded and to be informed otherwise, right? So he's saying, you know, that's why he tried to, so my question now is, do you think people should, on some level, study the truth for certain things as much as they can?
You know, I think about that, and it makes me think about the role of the artist in society, because
that's always a big thing.
Yeah, no, 100%, right? But when you really think about it, you have to realize that a lot of people aren't afforded that time and space, as we were kind of discussing before we went live, to be able to explore truths. It takes a lot to explore a truth. Research is heavy work. That takes years at times. You know, I just kind of closed off a research phase on my current project, but research never really ends. It always is in motion, you know what I mean? So thinking about that, it's like, could we really ask the person that's working a 9 to 5 and has to go home and feed 3 children to then consider what are the truths and, you know, of human experience and reality as we know it? Do they have the time to do that, or should that be the responsibility of the artist who packages it in a way that when I give it to you, it's very easy for you to figure it out? You have like, you spend an hour with this work and it's like, oh damn, I'm so glad that you did that work for me. Right. You know?
Well, the flip side to that is which artists?
Yes,
right.
100%.
Because part of it is, people need to understand, if me waking at 9 to 5 don't have enough time to research issues, some celebrities who might be working 16-hour days at times, they don't have time. Definitely, they have less time than me. Right? But we will take what they say because they're a celebrity. Now, on one hand, okay, an athlete, they're doing sports. What about sports will teach them things that they have not lived through, you know, at some point in time in their life, right? Not a lot. But with regards to certain artists who becomes outlets for the words and concerns of the people, part of their whole process, you know. If it's a rom-com actor, that's different. Like,
Yeah,
you don't have that direct experience.
Yeah.
But if it's a poet, a musician, a painter who does spend time because their subject matter is these issues,
Yeah.
right? But then to some extent, we're still trusting them, right, to not have an agenda that's in bad faith, or to not make a mistake, or to make an assumption. But at the very least, they're better equipped than the average celebrity, and it's worth considering. At least their opinions will be better formulated.
I think you have to know what you're getting into, depending on what type of art that you're looking at. And I know you spoke about, and that, I guess that comes into the functions of art in society. Do people see it as it being some sort of moral, moral beacon to play some sort of purpose in society? Is it just a matter of escapism? So people can go to the alternate reality, the virtual reality, which is what we have now. Or some people not thinking it can be one single part. I mean, for me, I think there's some responsibility on both parts. The responsibility of the individual, like I said, knowing what you're going into, as well as, so you'll know that, I mean, I'll be the first to say, I like my housewives every now and again, right? Right? Some people might not believe that, only particular housewives, some of them, But
The show,
yeah. Because oh, wow. Thank you.
it took me a minute, so I had to, you know?
The Real Housewives television franchise is what I meant to
How
say.
many housewives do you have, man?
There's only specific things only specific ones that I watch, right? Because I find them entertaining. It's very escape, right? I mean, they're making their millions of dollars, but on some level, some people see it as, oh my gosh, my life does not suck as bad, right? So there's some level of entertainment. But I think and then I'm not too big on, because we have a spotlight artist. She wrote a song, and we asked her, you know, what are some of the things that, do you think that all artists have a responsibility to speak on about real life situations? Her situation was about crime, right? And do all artists have that? And anytime there's a tragedy, especially in the States, we always see that discussion popping up. Sure. People asking, well, do you think that you should, you know, you have a big platform that yada yada yada? And then some people will say, yes, I believe I have that responsibility, and others would say, no, I don't think I can fault any one of that. When we were doing our carnival show, I asked one of our guests, and he made a valid point. I asked one of our guests, do you think it's the responsibility of us as citizens to know more about, because some of us are more educated about international culture and American culture, because we're inundated with that, right? More than our own. You know, some people say, I remember having a...
So responsibility is to know our culture?
Yeah, to know our culture. Because I know there are some people, I've had conversations where they said, you know, do we have an orchestra in Trinidad and Tobago? Yes, we have the National Philharmonic Orchestra. Well, I wouldn't know that. Did you go looking? Right? We have a National Theatre Arts Company. We have all of these steel bands. They're like, I'm not seeing enough plays and theatrical performances happening. There is something happening in a performance space literally every weekend, every other weekend, right? Just because it's not the main set of people that you hold, like especially in the choral world, people have specific choirs that they know about, but they're not realizing that there are others that exist as well, and they're doing quite well, even though it's not all the way in your face, right? So I think, but in terms of the function, I think it's a good point, because there's the escapism, the functionalism, and somewhere that lies somewhere in between.
Well, so I have a couple of things, but I'll start off with this, Dion. Do you think, this is one of the, I think, the modern questions now, because escapism entertainment used to be, well, you don't go there for social commentary, you go there to escape the issues.
Yeah.
But now there are people that want to interject commentary and interject these things, messaging into it. And where people is like, hold on, I watch sports for sports to get away from the drama, right? And I could appreciate that to some extent.
Yeah.
Do you think that a line should be drawn to some degree?
Oh.
Because to some extent, again, the escapism people are not always the best people to tell me what's the correct...
100%.
Right?
So on that note, I think that, coming back to something you were saying a little bit earlier, I think that artists who have the capacity to talk about things should talk about things.
Okay.
I'm not trying to hear, you know, an artist who I go to purely for entertainment because I know that that's their lane, those are their facets. I'm not trying to hear them talk about politics and you know, socio-cultural issues, like, unless they can do that.
Right.
If they can't do that, then yeah, I'm here for it. But if your lane is bubble and grind, wine and dip and go down low and
Of course.
do that, you know what I mean? I don't need you to do anything else.
I mean, I was wondering how we could have interjected it, but this aspect of it, I think we can, because I'm sure most of our viewers probably are not aware, but in the American music scene, there was a significant issue between two popular entertainers. But I think what you just said there speaks to one of them, who should be mostly universally known, Drake.
Yeah, Drake, yeah.
Right? One would argue he's an entertainer.
He's 100% an entertainer.
But he has been accused and criticized by some of the more social conscious members of his art form that he wants to get into that. I mean, not just social conscious, but he also wants to get into the whole gangster rap, and he's hard and the violence aspects and the thug aspects. It's like, you're a guy from Canada that entertains.
I think with regards to Drake, it's more along the lines of he often challenges or has problem with artists that take that direction because his view or his perspective on creating music is around entertaining people. So when people make songs that aren't just about entertaining people, he has a problem with it and makes that known. But also your popularity, you have to be very cautious over the things that you speak down on, because these people are talking about very real situations that affect people's lives, you know, and their well-being.
To some extent, is knowing your place a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Keep making me dance, waving my hands, and it won't be no threat, you know what I mean? to quote the great Kendrick Lamar that with, you know?
Because basically, right, part of the issue is there are allegations that he's copying a lot of other people to get his success.
Yeah.
And then now, to some extent, one could argue, with that on the table, anything he says, because when you brought up, well, those who can talk, it's okay to talk. But now, who determines that? How do you determine that?
Yeah.
If he is a grifter in that he is just following trends and trying to be popular to be commercially successful, and it's fine, some artists are like that, right? His mistake is if he doesn't want to admit it, right? And if he's taking advantage of people. But then someone like him, if all he's doing is following trends, I can't take him seriously as a social commentator, can I?
Well, then the responsibility is on you to know that I'm not going to him.
So this leads me to my next point.
Social
right?
commentary.
Because we started off with people don't have time to do research.
Yeah.
But now we're saying, but you have to research the people to give you the shortcut so you don't have to do the research.
No, but that's why I think that's media's role, in my humble opinion. I believe that the media, and then I'm extending media to DJs. Even DJs in parties or at events, anybody that's sharing art is considered media in my opinion. Art, news, anything like that. Anyone who's sharing those things.
To be fair to that, and I think this is true for a lot of our local music, because of the cultural similarities in rap, urban DJs, to some extent, they're almost synonymous now with podcasts. They have morning talk shows, they have podcast shows. 100%. So sorry, they're synonymous to news. They are opinion leaders in that space, right? This is hot, this is not. What this guy is saying is good, what this guy is saying is bad.
That was the nature of DJing when DJing first started. It was about breaking records. It was about teaching people this is the new or the next big thing. This is what you should be listening to.
Respect to y'all DJs. I didn't even consider
that's what it used to be. Right now, it's like, what song is popular? Let me play it so that I could get a next job.
Yeah, basically.
So I could get another gig.
Now, listen, I'm talking over 10 years ago, when I'm in 51 and I'm literally watching 3 DJs in a row play the same back in time set, which is basically they took the 80s music that they would normally play on a Saturday and they just turned that into a back in time set. So I'm like, this is beyond not original, right? So there's a lot of copying in art, right? I mean, not Chappelle, Cat Williams, who he did say 2024 is here. One of the things he brought up was joke stealing, right? Art is a competitive industry. I think one of the interesting things where art might be imitating life, ironically, and this is happening to media as well, the economic struggles and the competitiveness of the business environment, of the commercial environment, of the industries, art and media. It's impacting, I think, the quality and the ethics of the art and the media.
Yeah, not just the competition aspect of it, but also the way that it's so rooted in technology now. So how streaming services have now affected music to the point where I actually saw somebody breaking this down recently, where it's essentially created a cycle where musicians are forced to create music that sounds like music that already exists.
Yeah.
So that it will be streamed.
I follow that.
Yeah. So there's a popular sound, make that sound again and keep playing it or keep making it and playing it and making it and playing it so that we can playlist music. It sounds coherent.
Is that
it's easy for algorithms to follow.
New because of digital age? Because to some extent, when Kiss did a disco song,
right,
they didn't do it because they believed in disco.
But what I think is different maybe about what Kiss did back then is it wasn't necessarily about...
Sorry, not Kiss. I think it was... No, it was Kiss and Rob Stewart.
Okay. It wasn't necessarily about catching a trend or having to fit into what was popular. Maybe even pushing the boundaries of something that existed. You know, so think about how hip-hop started, where it was taking the breakbeat from disco and then spitting over as an MC, you have him with the mic in front of the crowd as you going back and forth between the, you know, and thinking about that, it wasn't, so hip-hop, its birth was essentially understanding this thing exists, we like this portion of it.
Right.
Let's take this portion and create something new. What we're getting now is this thing exists, let's create this exact same thing over and over and over again. It's mass production of the same product when art is inherently, it's supposed to evolve and move on from where it once was.
I'm seeing this rise of, I think what some are calling sort of cinematic pop. Okay. Where there's this sort of rise of pop music that almost sounds like it could come from a movie, like from a movie scene.
Well,
so it sounds like that a little bit.
First of all, that is the kind of music that tends to hit me personally the most. And I tend to find those tracks to be well put together. Think about as much as the movies and the storylines are not great, but some of the soundtracks from the 50 Grey series, you had some heavy pop artists with some various heavy play pop songs, right, on that soundtrack. Think of the Black Panther album I told you, Kendrick Lamar's All the Stars, right? Now, I will say this though, this might be one of the longest I think I've seen like a trend where everything just turns into this, you know, amorphous blob of genericism.
Right, and it's been going on for quite some time.
Yeah, ironically, because I was saying, well, maybe we need to blame Kanye for this because of how he produced. No, with regards to hip-hop, how he produced his stuff kind of was popish.
Okay,
right? But then also, I think 50 was like, my 21 Reasons also was that love song rap, right? That pop rap for the ladies. And then you get Drake. The thing is, Drake has been there for, what, 12 years? That's kind of long. We haven't really moved there. And pop music is the same. I think other genres might not be so bad. Even soca might not be quite so bad, although one could argue we're stuck in a long term. Kind of.
So ladies and gentlemen, whether you believe that art imitates life or that life should imitate art, or you believe in both, so do I. I think you need, there's a balance and there's a time and place, right? But you consume the art, always support our artists, no matter what, our visual artists or musicians or poets or authors, right? Always support them, always go to their concerts. Be aware of what's happening, ladies and gentlemen. Be aware of what's happening in Trinidad and Tobago. Always go to their events, always support them. Thank you very much, Mr. Carrington, for joining us. Speaking of authors, thank you very much.
So when's the next book coming?
The next book, I have a schedule, and I'm hoping 2026.
Wow.
And we're looking forward to that.
I wish Martin had a schedule on the next Game of Thrones, but oh well.
And with that, Trinidad and Tobago, this is the first. Thank you for joining us. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Imagine a world where arguments don't exist. CICR is a full-service conflict resolution company that offers mediation training and workshops for all. In 2024, our 40-hour workshops are back, giving you all the tools you need to become a certified mediator in Trinidad and Tobago. Want to know more? Call us at 768-6778 or visit our website. Let's work together to make the world a better place.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios. but they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Breakthrough. Now, we have a couple of things that we really just want to give you all a heads up on, things that are happening this week and things that are happening long term. So let's just take a look at what's happening this week in Trinidad and Tobago. Let's see what's first. So the first thing, yes. So the first thing we have is Amplify, a program put on by the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. If you're interested in digital photography, video production, graphic design, vocal training, stage presentation, all of those things. All right, it's located at COSTAT, and the applications are open. The deadline is 2nd of June. So if you know someone who is interested in that, especially youth 16 to 35 years old, this will be really great.
And this is one of the things I would say, I would ask people to like push it out there. If you have young people, nephews, nieces, grandchildren, children, one of our issues is distributing this information and getting it known to all the people who might want to participate. So do your best to help out, to push out the word out there. But there's a couple others in this category as well. The next one will be the Arts and Cultural Enterprise Management. This from UE.
Yes, so the university, this is the postgraduate diploma in Arts and Cultural Enterprise Management. Application deadline is July 31st. All right, the requirements are there. This is coming out of the UE Department of Creative and Festival Arts, the ACM program, the ACM all in Arts and Cultural Enterprise Management. Those who need, you're not sure if there's a master's out there for you, but you still want to pursue some sort of postgraduate education, you can go here.
And by enterprise management, I assume this could be with all sorts of like events and industries.
Yeah,
so
that sort of thing.
Don't just think, ooh, it's to put on an art show or an arts exhibition or concert. It doesn't have to be limited to that.
This is to sort of educate you business-wise as well.
Right, yes, exactly. Everybody could use a little bit of that. Now, the next one we have from UTT, Chutney Soka, a poster exhibit, History, Synthesis, and Acceptance. Oh gosh.
Can you read?
Yes, no, it's pronunciation that's sometimes my problem. You would swear English is not my first language. Right, I don't know any others. This is from the 22nd of May to the 2nd of June at the UTT campus at Napa. So this is just an art exhibit, but I guess this is one of the things where to learn about the culture. And I think, I don't know if we're kind of taking it for granted that the young people are sufficiently educated of the origins of our culture now, and hopefully that's not something that we're going to lose. I know we don't document enough. The next thing that we have would be the Force Festival.
Right, this is happening in Tobago, put on by the Tobago Performing Arts Company, June 1st. That's this Saturday, I believe. Yes, that's this Saturday. Right, they're having a whole lot of things. There's dance, there's drama, there's film, there's music. All right, the Force Festival is happening this Saturday. All right, Shaw Park Complex, Tobago, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's a full day, so they're gonna combine all of the different art forms that they have there. And it's a great learning experience. There's going to be seminars, master classes, performances, that sort of thing, and a panel discussion.
And they say the full festival pass is $300.
That's so great.
That is cheap, folks. Let's not undermine or think less of arts and culture. And that I would assume that is for the whole day.
Yes, that is for the whole day. All right. So next we have Bollywood Bachelor. Right, the Bollywood Bachelor at the Barrack for Beauty, put on by Crazy Catholic and Sit Down Productions. All right, this is live at Sapa and Napa. Sapa this Thursday and Friday, and Napa next week Sunday. All right, and the tickets are there. Children, teens, seniors, adults. You have different prices there. You can, all of the numbers are listed there. You can also follow their social media accounts to keep updated with all of those things. And then the final thing we had, the big one, is a rhythm. The National Philharmonic Orchestra presents Is a Rhythm, a soca and calypso concert featuring the National Philharmonic Orchestra with guest performances from Chris and Joseph and NSSO.
Did not tell me Chris was going to be there.
So you're going to be there on Wednesday. Great, lovely. It's happening at Napa. Tickets are only $200. It's this Wednesday, May 29th. We had Dr. Henry Wasi Ward and Simon Brown with us last week, Monday. We had a wonderful discussion about about our music in the context of a philharmonic orchestra. So people, please do not miss this. I will be there. I will make sure Sean is there, and we will have a wonderful time.
And I will say, this is a chance to broaden the horizons of what we think our art and culture is supposed to be.
Right. So now we're going straight into our spotlight. So we sat down with Lindsay. She's a singer, songwriter, and she is releasing a new song called My Plea. All right, we sat with her previously, and this is the discussion. Check it out. I am so excited for the guest that we have joining us in studio today is the artist, the singer herself, Lindsay. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
How are you today?
I'm very good.
All right, nice. So we're going to put the spotlight on you a little bit. All right, so first, before we get into, because I know you have a little song for us that we're going to play at the end of the segment, right? But first things first, tell us about you. Tell us about Lindsay.
I consider myself a creative individual, and that creativity spans far beyond just singing. I like to enjoy craft. I like to enjoy painting, in any way, writing. So I consider myself a very creative individual who enjoys spreading some sort of positivity in some way or in every way that I can to people, whether that makes them believe in themselves or encourages them through my work. So that's what I'd say.
Nice. And you sort of come from a musical family, if I'm not correct.
Yes, I have 6 siblings, and
wow.
yeah.
That's getting bunch of family.
I heard that all my life growing
Really?
up. So,
Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
totally fine. That's a compliment. But yes, all 7 of us sing, and it was just normal in our household growing up, really and truly.
Were your parents singers as well?
They sing,
Okay.
but they're not like
They weren't
avid
correct.
singers.
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem. So so all of your siblings can sing, but you've taken it further into making
Yes.
a whole career out of it.
Yes, I have.
And I'm sure you would have gotten support from them as well.
course, yeah.
Right? What was that transition like for you to actually take it a lot further?
Well, I grew up in a choir, the Love Movement Choir, under Bernard Lachlan Scott, and all of us went through there as well. But after a while, if you could relate or if you can't, growing up in a choir, if you feel like you want to break out on your own as an independent artist, you want to put your voice out there, that was my path, I believe. Yes, during the choir, I did have opportunities to have solos and be able to be solo on the stage, but it's different when you want to bring out what's inside of you, what touches you personally, music-wise. So after leaving the choir, I said, I really want to take that path of going out there on my own as an independent artist, and that's where it started.
Now, it's interesting because, Trinidad and Tobago, on one hand, has a limited music industry. It's centered around carnival. You yourself, you've spent time in that space
Yes.
as well, right?
Yeah.
Did you feel that to some extent is somewhat limiting because commercially you do need to pay the bills if you want to be a professional artist, and a lot of artists I find, even the ones in the calypso soca space, they have other genres they want to touch on, get influenced by, but also go back to, not just kind of be kind of temporarily take a few bits but then come back. They want to branch out more. You find it's kind of limiting now because you like to do a lot of art forms. I've seen your sketch parts and stuff before.
Yes.
That we don't necessarily have that space for creatives to really get something out there sometimes.
Yes, I do believe so. And it's funny you should say that because it was soca that I started to branch out with. And that was actually very strategic for me. I had the opportunity, I was very blessed. A popular soca producer, reached out and asked me if I wanted to sing on a song, because at that time I was now on Instagram, now trying to put myself out there singing random things, and he reached out. So from that, I had the option in mind. I personally do not consider myself a soca artist. I love soca, but I don't consider myself a soca artist. But yet, with what he was offering, I knew that that would be a window, a step in the door for exposure, which is really what I wanted to get to be able to do my own music. So my first release was, public release was in 2019 on the radio. in the classy rhythm called Private Party.
Which I have heard on the radio.
Yes,
by the way.
still hearing it,
Yeah.
praise God. And that was my step into getting to expose myself as an artist and to get to know more people, socialize and network really and truly. And from there, after that release, the following year, I released my own productions.
Right.
Yeah, so.
But that's the next question, because when we did Carnival, one of the things that was cool was when we would have the first group of guests. It was a whole group, and they would all be trading, you know, phone numbers, following each other on Instagram. So, like, I'm left to wonder, to what extent does the whole creative industry, it's maybe not as well connected as we might think, you know, it's, I don't know, was it easy to get connections? Was a lot of people ready to collaborate, or did it feel as though, like, everybody is still kind of operating on their own somewhat?
Well, yeah, it is. There's a caveat to that. With soca, if you want to do soca music, I think it's easy to connect. It's difficult. It has been difficult for me, which is why I decided to produce my own things, because I felt as though, no offense to anybody, everybody has their own sound and their own talent, but I wasn't getting what I wanted, what I was hearing in my head from somebody else. So I took the step to do it on my own.
This actually mirrors, because we had the NPO in a previous episode, and they were talking about the fact that to get their live sound and sound engineers to kind of understand that they don't necessarily have people that understand their genre. And I said, well, the same thing for choirs. You know, most sound engineers, it's the soca space, that's the big elephant in the room that everybody is geared to professionally. So anything outside of that is just so much in its infancy that we tend to, you know, there's so much, the converse side of the argument that there's so much potential room if anyone could figure out and break through with the space and to try to get it commercialized.
I was not going to say, I think it exists, but the issue is it known? You know, outside of the fact that I'm aware that a lot of producers tend to not be known in the spotlight, it's usually the artists, and the writers and the producers tend to stay behind closed doors. Now I see them coming out more, but I'm sure that there are producers who are into everything other than soca, but at the same time, maybe there should be a platform, more platforms or more exposure on them to come out, so that artists who are not maybe aligned with soca can see that, hey, I can work with this person if I want to do pop, I can work with this person if I want to do, you know, hip hop, whichever one. So
now, one thing that I've been hearing you saying, and to that point, what I heard was, you didn't hear the opportunity does come. At least there is some, exactly, at least there is some foundation. Part of that experience, I want to mention really quickly, you and your sisters competed in music festival like back.
Yes.
Back in something years, right? And I saw the article from that year, and you all were the first to bring, it was a family category, and you all were the first to bring contemporary pop, contemporary pop to that category.